They said her eyes meant something was wrong with her. Every time someone reached toward the cage, her pupils would blow open, wide and black, swallowing the gold around them. She would flatten herself against the back wall and stay there, completely still, like she was trying to disappear into the concrete itself. One volunteer wrote it on her file in red ink, the kind of note that follows a cat from one form to the next. Not adoptable. But to understand why that note was wrong, we have to go back to the night she arrived. Onyx came into the shelter on a Tuesday in November, found shivering under a loading dock behind a grocery store in the middle of a cold snap. She was thin, her fur matted in patches, ribs visible along her sides. And when the animal control officer reached for her, she didn't hiss or scratch, she just froze, eyes wide, pupils swallowing almost all of the gold, every muscle locked in place. No bite, no claws, nothing but that stare, the officer wrote in the intake notes. The shelter staff had seen scared cats before, plenty of them, cats that arrived spitting and clawing and took weeks to calm down. This was different. Most cats calmed down after a few days of food and warmth. Onyx didn't. Weeks passed, and she still pressed herself into the corner of her enclosure every time a hand came near, eyes locked open, watching, waiting for something bad to happen, never letting her guard down even for a second. A volunteer named Karen had worked at the shelter for 11 years, long enough to think she had seen every kind of frightened animal that could walk through those doors. She'd handled feral cats, injured cats, cats nobody thought would make it. Even she started to wonder about this one. "I don't think she's ever had a single safe moment in her whole life," Karen told a coworker one afternoon, watching Onyx track her movements from across the room without blinking. Families came through on weekends, the way they always did, pointing at kittens, scooping up the orange tabby that purred the second you looked at him, asking the front desk how soon they could take him home. Nobody stopped at Onyx's cage for long. A few people glanced at the dilated eyes and moved on, uneasy, like something about her stare felt wrong, like she was looking through them instead of at them. 4 months passed this way, season changing outside while nothing changed inside that cage. Then Claire walked in. She wasn't looking for a cat that day. She'd come to drop off donated blankets for the shelter, and she almost left without going past the cages at all. But what happened next would change everything. She stopped in front of Onyx's enclosure, not because the cat did anything, but because she didn't. Onyx sat completely still in the back corner, eyes wide, watching her the way she watched everyone. Karen came around the corner and stopped, surprised to see anyone willing to wait that long. "She's not going to come to you," Karen said gently. "She hasn't let anyone close in 4 months." Claire just nodded and kept sitting there, low to the ground, looking somewhere else, giving Onyx nothing to flinch from. Little did Karen know, this was only the beginning. Claire came back the next day, and the day after that. Each time she sat on the floor outside the cage, never reaching in, never speaking much above a whisper, just letting Onyx watch her exist in the same space without anything bad happening. On the 7th visit, Onyx took 2 steps toward the front of the cage for the first time since she'd arrived. On the 9th visit, she didn't retreat to the back corner at all. Karen started watching from down the hall, arms crossed, half convinced she was imagining the change. "I have never seen her do that," she said quietly, the day Onyx pressed her face, just barely, against the bars closest to where Claire was sitting. Claire filled out the adoption paperwork 2 weeks later. Karen warned her honestly before she signed it. "She still might never let you touch her," Karen said. "Some cats carry what happened to them for the rest of their lives." Claire said she understood, and she took Onyx home anyway, not expecting a miracle, just hoping to give her somewhere quiet to exist. The first 3 weeks in the new apartment were almost exactly the same as the shelter. Onyx hid under the bed during the day and only came out after midnight, when the lights were off and the apartment was silent. Claire would hear her moving through the dark, soft footsteps crossing the floor, and then nothing, like she'd vanished again before morning. She never asked for anything. She never approached. Claire kept doing the same thing she'd done in that hallway, sitting nearby, never reaching, just letting her presence become familiar instead of frightening. Then, on a Thursday night in her 4th week home, everything changed. Claire was sitting on the floor near the bed, scrolling through her phone, not paying attention to anything in particular. She felt something brush against her hand. She looked down slowly, almost afraid to move, and found Onyx pressed against her fingers, head tilted, eyes half closed instead of wide and panicked, for the first time since the night she was found under that loading dock. Claire didn't move. She barely breathed. Every instinct told her to reach out, to stroke her fur, to do something, but she stayed completely still and let Onyx be the one making the decision. She just turned her hand over, palm up, and waited. Onyx stepped forward and rested her entire face against it. What happened in that one quiet moment would stay with Claire for the rest of her life. She sat on that floor for almost an hour afterward, hand still raised, not wanting to be the one who ended it. From that moment on, something between them had shifted permanently, in a way neither of them needed to put into words. Onyx started sleeping at the foot of the bed instead of underneath it. She began meeting Claire at the door some evenings, tail low but present, eyes no longer wide with that same fear. She still flinched at sudden movements and loud sounds, old habits that never fully disappeared, the kind of reflex that doesn't simply vanish because life got safer. But with Claire, specifically with Claire, she had stopped bracing for the worst. Karen visited a few months later to see how the adoption had gone, half expecting to find Onyx still hiding somewhere out of sight, still flinching at every footstep the way she had for years. Instead, she found her curled against Claire's leg on the couch, eyes closed, completely unbothered by a stranger standing in the doorway, breathing slow and even, like sleep had finally become safe. "I told you she might never let anyone touch her," Karen said, smiling despite herself. "She didn't let anyone," Claire said quietly. "She let me." That distinction mattered more than anything else in the whole story, more than the rescue itself, more than the months of waiting. Onyx was never broken, and she was never unadoptable, no matter what that red ink on her file used to say about a cat nobody understood. She was simply waiting for the one person patient enough to let her decide in her own time that the world might not always hurt her. Sometimes trust doesn't look like a dramatic rescue or an instant bond. Sometimes it looks like 20 silent minutes on a hallway floor, repeated until someone finally believes it's safe to come closer. Do you think some animals can only ever trust one person in their whole lives, or is patience enough to reach anyone eventually? Tell me what you think in the comments.